Good morning, everyone. Good morning, all our friends. Good morning to all our friends all over. I'm here from High Touch, High Tech in San Francisco Bay Area. And just like you, we are all working from home in shelter in place. And my name is Seashell Shalini. And today we will be doing and learning something about bird beaks. Birds are so fascinating. They can fly, they can walk, they have these wonderful things called beaks. Now, did anyone know that there are actually 18,000 different kinds of bird species out there? That's a lot of different birds, and all of these different birds, they actually have something called a beak, right? And we know that the beak is actually, what is a beak? A beak is actually a mouth, right? It's the mouth, and it has two parts. It has the upper jaw and the lower jaw, but these don't have teeth in them. Instead, they're made of a horny protein that's called keratin, which is actually the same protein that your nails are made of. So, it's a nice hard protein that even the horns of certain rhinoceroses and other animals are made of. What do we think are the different functions of a beak? Well, why would a bird need a beak? Of course, it's the bird's mouth, so the bird is going to eat and get its food by using its beak. It is that's just one thing. Then of course they use it to feed their young, because when they have the little babies in the nest, they can actually put the food in the mouth of the babies and the beaks, through the beaks of the babies, to give them their little food. And they also use it in defending themselves. So that means if there's a predator and they want to defend themselves, they can actually hurt the predator with their beak. They can groom their feathers. They use it to clean themselves, to use their feathers. They use it in mating. They use it to regulate their body temperature. And they also, of course, use it to build their homes, which are the little nests that they use it for. So there's actually many different kinds of beaks. And this is just a picture of what a bird's body parts look like, right? So this is the bird's head, this is its little beak, which is its mouth. This is the back. It has wings, which it uses to fly, the wings and tail, and then it has feet and legs as well. So that's just a little bit about birds. And like we said, there are so many different kinds of beaks, and I will just share with you all the different kinds of beaks, the several different kinds of beaks that birds have. So bird beaks are usually adapted to what the bird is eating. So there are several different kinds of birds that eat different things. So I have a few items out here which I'm going to show you and share with you as to the different kinds of foods that birds eat. And then depending on the different kinds of foods that they eat, they have different adaptations. Scientists call this word adaptations. So their beak is adapted differently. And I'll I'll kind of go through that slowly. So the first kind of beak is sort of like a filter beak, you know. And what I mean by a filter is something like a sieve. So I have a sieve over here, which you can see. And what happens is that these are birds like ducks. And what they do is they use their beak and they take up the pond water, which is where they live. And what I have here is basically a coffee filter, just to show you what happens when they take up the water in their beak. They actually, a lot of the dirt gets stuck to the filter, and the water goes back into the pond. So from the dirt, they're then able to find different worms and bugs that they can use as their food. So one kind of a beak that like ducks have, and I'll share a picture with you, is a filter kind of beak. So give me just one moment while I look for that. So this is the kind of beak that a duck has. And as I mentioned, they take the pond water in and through their beak, and then the water comes back out, and they strain it and they get the dirt, and then from the dirt they get the worms, and that's their food. That's one kind of beak. A second kind of beak would be a beak that's called a crossbill. So a crossbill, or they are also birds that could be, let's see, where is the crossbill? Give me a minute. So crossbill is this bird, is this one right here, the second one. And you'll notice how its beak is one on top of the other, sort of like that, like a crossbill. And what it does is almost like a set of tweezers, right? And what it does is, if there's it's able to if there's a seed in a pine cone, it's able to go in and pull out the seed from the pine cone, because its beak is sort of like a tweezer, and it can get the seed from inside the pine cone. So let me see if I can get it. You can try these things at home if you have a set of tweezers. If you have a pine cone in your backyard, maybe you can use a set of tweezers and a pine cone, and see if you can use your tweezers to pick the seeds out of the pine cone. So that's another kind of a beak. Another kind of beak is like a hummingbird has. Now hummingbirds, I'm sure you've all seen them. They're actually, it's springtime now, and hummingbirds are all over. They're actually in the process of migrating. They usually have a nice long pointed beak. As you can see in this picture, they usually have a nice long pointed beak. And what they can do is, that helps them get deep into a flower. And if you can see this, this is like a long tube, which is what the flower's nectar holder is like. And they can go in there with their beak and suck out the nectar from it. I know it's kind of hard to see, but they can actually suck the nectar and drink the nectar from the flower. So that's how hummingbirds, they have a long probing beak. It's called a probing beak, which can go all the way deep into the flower and suck the nectar out. So that was another kind of beak. Then we have beaks, birds that are fish eaters, right? We've all seen them: kingfishers, herons, cranes, storks. So I have a few little fish here, and I have a little bit of water here just to show you, how the fish eaters' beaks work. So fish eaters' beaks sort of work like that of a chopstick. So if you're good with chopsticks, you'll be able to do this really well. I am not, so we'll give it a shot. But that's how the fish eater, the herons and the cranes, they go in with their long beaks and they're able to pick out a fish. And then once they get the fish out, they're able to eat the fish, and that's their food. So try it with a set of chopsticks. Kind of fun to pick out a fish from the water. You can just cut out a few fish and put them in the water and pull them out. So here we go. So that's your little fish eater. So that was a set of chopsticks. Then of course you have the meat eaters. So birds are also meat eaters. They like hawks and vultures and eagles, and we've seen them. They fly really high in the sky, and they are able to just jump onto a prey and then grab the prey and cut open the prey. Almost all, they have really sharp beaks, and they can literally just cut the prey and eat the meat. So that would be like, let me show you a picture. Here we go. Here are some meat eaters. So here's an eagle, and here's the owl. Yeah, and their beaks are really sharp, and you'll notice how they almost have a claw at the end, like a hook at the end, that they can grab onto the meat and eat the meat. So and then we have certain birds that are really good at picking bugs from the soil. So like a curlew, they are really good at picking bugs, and they can pick bugs from the soil or from the sandy beaches. Another kind of beak would be that of a spoonbill. Now, spoonbills literally have a beak like a spoon. And what I've done here is I've just used a pair of tongs and I've put the spoon, because what they do is they go in and they literally spoon out the water or the fish or whatever animals from the water and hold on to it and then eat, and that's how they get their food. So they're called spoonbills, and their beaks are also shaped like that of a spoon. And then you have birds like this that have a short, thick beak, and these beaks are really good, like cardinals, and they are good for seeds. They eat seeds, and I have some bird seed here, which maybe you can see, and I also have something. If you don't have bird seed at home, you can actually just make some with some oats, and I put some fine noodles there, and some whatever seeds I could find around the house, a few raisins, some dried seeds. You could gather all this, put them on a plate, and you would be able to see how the beak of a cardinal or the short beak, and these are fruit and nut eaters basically. They eat fruits and nuts both. There's also a certain kind of bird called the toucan, and you might have seen this. It has one of the most colorful beaks, And it's also something, it's a tropical bird, and it's also something that's called a multifunctional beak, which means it can be used for many different things. So it's not just for feeding or just for grooming, it uses it for everything. In fact, it's such a piece of art almost that it can be used for it can be used as a show, in the mating process. It's also used in controlling the temperature, keeping the temperature down, because it's really hot where it lives, and so it keeps the temperature down. It also scares away predators. It can also be used to collect fruit, and skin the fruit, eat the nuts, and so on and so forth. So we just looked at several different kinds of beaks of birds, and like I said, there's just so many different kinds. Nature has almost over 18,000 of these birds, and each bird has evolved over time to have a beak that works for its environment, that works to do the job that it needs it to do. And so I hope you learned something about birds. Please visit our blog to learn a little bit more. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them along. We'll be happy to answer them. And I hope you enjoyed watching, and keep a lookout for the birds in your backyard when you're out and about. They are really interesting, and they are a wide variety. So, we can learn a lot about what they eat, and, think about what they might be using their beaks for next time. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed it. And have fun